On the quiet roads of the Cambridge countryside, Abdul Shakur breathes a sigh of relief. A far cry from the decades of oppression and struggles he's endured for his faith.
Shakur Bhai's personality is very honest, trustworthy, and hardworking.
Kind-hearted and loving, and he's always, there to talk to someone or wanting to talk to someone. So he's very outward going, but he's also very patient as well at the same time.
So he's fair, honest, straightforward.
Now in his late 80s, Abdul Shakur, affectionately known as Shakur Bhai Chashmewale or Brother Shakur the optician, lives peacefully in the Cambridge countryside with his daughter and son-in-law. But it wasn't always like this.
The Pakistani government unjustly has imprisoned him for propagating the Ahmadiyya faith.
He has suffered so much with simply selling books about the Ahmadiyya Muslim community.
That legislation, which is designed to deal with criminals and terrorists of the highest order, of the highest level, was used in order to convict a 78-year-old optician for the possession of peaceful religious books.
And he was charged with blasphemy and terrorism charges, which you can see are quite laughable of a man of that generation.
So I said, just recite La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minaz zalimin. So I said, just recite that and it would be all right.
There is probably no person on the earth that would look at him or talk to him and perceive that he was a terrorist.
तो पंजाबी में कहता है देख मिर्जे ने की लिखा है, फिर 15-20 थप्पड़ मारे, अभी भी कभी-कभी मेरे यहाँ दांत में दर्द होता है.
अब वो जेल में है, बहरहाल इंशाअल्लाह ताला अल्लाह फजल करेगा, आ जाएंगे बाहर. ये भी ट्रायल है क्या ना, इसमें से गुजर रहे हैं वो. ठीक है, कि मैं तो सिर्फ 10 दिन जेल में रहा हूँ, मुझे पता है कैसी होती है जेलें.
Cambridge is a world away from the hardships and oppression Shakur Bhai faced in Pakistan. First arrested in Sargodha in 1974, he's since been to 4 prisons, wrongly convicted for 5 crimes including terrorism, and spent years in jail, once for simply wearing a ring. At 89 years old, he's a veteran at enduring persecution. In Pakistan, being an Ahmadi Muslim is a serious crime. Since 1974, when the government outlawed the Ahmadiyya Muslim community, its members have been martyred on a regular basis, their shops looted, their lives turned upside down, and their existence denied. The country's absurd blasphemy laws mean Ahmadis can be charged just for practicing their faith.
Hundreds of Ahmadis have been punished, persecuted, prosecuted, dragged in the streets by the police, beaten up, just for the crime that they declared this kalima, that's fundamental article of Muslim faith, because they believed there is no God but one. They believed in the truth of the Holy Prophet of Islam. And this is a crime, prime crime in Pakistan, a crime for which they will not accept bail.
तुम कलमा नहीं लगा सकते, कुरान की आयत नहीं लगा सकते, अंगूठी नहीं पहन सकते, कुरान शरीफ नहीं पढ़ सकते, नमाज नहीं पढ़ सकते. हर चीज़ पर हज़ारों अहमदियों पर मुकदमे हुए हैं कि तुमने सलाम क्यों किया है.
इस कलमे के पढ़ने के ऊपर हमारे सैकड़ों हजार से ऊपर ऐसे अहमदी हैं जिनको कैद हुई है, और आप भी अगर चाहें तो आप पसंद करें तो आप मुझे कैद करवा सकते हैं. अस्सलामु अलैकुम कहने पे बहुत से अहमदियों को, उनकी फिगर मुझे याद नहीं, 3-3 साल की कैद हुई है। जमात अहमदिया के खिलाफ प्रोसिक्यूशन को लेजिटिमाइज किया गया है।
But they wake up every day knowing that just because of what they believe, that they could face imprisonment or worse.
Assalamu alaikum, the Muslim greeting of peace, carries a 3-year jail term. Calling yourself a Muslim will get you a hefty fine. Possessing a copy of the Holy Quran could mean a death sentence. Yet Ahmadis continue to be loyal to their faith, their community, and to God, despite facing lengthy jail time or even the death penalty. Many have spent years in harsh imprisonment, enduring the worst conditions. Shakur Pai was one of them.
An optician by profession, he had a booming business making spectacles for some of the most important people in Pakistan, and for the poor, he would give them for free.
फिर सरगोदा मैंने काम शुरू किया, तो छोटे से पैमाने पर काम शुरू किया। अल्लाह ताला ने करते करते सबसे बड़ी दुकान फिर मुझे दे दी, तो वहाँ फिर चश्मे का सारा इलाके के मैं बनाता था।
His popularity was basically because of his honesty and fairness. He would not charge over the odds as other business people do.
रब्बा से उन्होंने कोई आया, उन्होंने बताया कि हज़रत अम्मा जान की नज़र टेस्ट करनी है, तो फिर मैंने हज़रत अम्मा जान की नज़र टेस्ट की। तो फिर एक दफ़ा उन्होंने कहा खलीफा मसीह सानी की नज़र टेस्ट करनी है, तो फिर मैंने खलीफा मसीह सानी की नज़र टेस्ट की।
He opened up a bookshop in Rabwa, an Ahmadi Muslim town in Pakistan.
Even he moved his business to Rabwa from Sargoda. The non-Ahmadi people used to come to Rabwa because they felt that they get fair treatment from him.
Little did he know, selling religious books would make him a convicted terrorist under the country's repressive anti-Ahmadiyya laws.
The case arose as a result of a sting operation which is initiated by somebody who was an opponent of the community, and a number of police officers then posed as customers allegedly, and they claimed that they went into Shakur Pai's shop. They claimed that they provided him with 2 500 rupee notes that were signed by the police officers. They claim that they purchased the books. And they claim that those books incited terrorism and extremism and religious hatred.
So this was a personal vendetta by some extreme Maulvis in Rabwa who were really targeting him to make an example.
मैं पूछना चाहता हूं आज इंसाफ के अलंबरदारों से कि जो ईसा अलैहिस्सलाम ईसाईयत और मुसलमानों के दरमियान लड़ाई करवाना चाहते हैं, इन अनासिर के खिलाफ पुलिस ने क्या कार्रवाई की? इन अनासिर के खिलाफ पाकिस्तान की एजेंसियां क्या कर रही हैं?
We have not seen any instance of the Ahmadiyya community in Pakistan or anywhere in the world inciting violence, causing disunity. If anything, we've seen this, love for all, hatred for none, to be embraced in every aspect of the lives of the Ahmadiyya community.
Here we have a person who is acting as the judge, the jury, and the executioner all in one. The promised Messiah ﷺ has written in one of his books that if one of the members of my community sees that a Christian's house is on fire and he doesn't run to put out that fire, then that individual is not even a member of my community.
They don't cause harm to anyone in Pakistan or in any other place all around the world. In fact, they do the exact opposite. They serve millions of people in need.
Politicians are so afraid of the mob violence that the mob is calling a lot of the shots in Pakistan. But there's no doubt that the Ahmadi community has been targeted the worst in Pakistan, and it's been systematic. people who subscribe to a terrorist type ideology are the ones that are actually going after him.
मेरे हाथ में एक साइबर क्राइम की तरफ से एक टेक्निकल रिपोर्ट है। ये रिपोर्ट एक बदतरीन गुस्ताख रसूल जिसका नाम अब्दुल शकूर है उसके बारे में है। तो मैं अदलिया से ये अपील करूंगा कि इस बदतरीन गुस्ताख रसूल को अनकरीब इसको जो है तख्ता-ए-दार पे लटका के इस बदबख्त को सजाए मौत दी जाए।
The reason our books are banned is because these very same clerics know that if people read those books from beginning to end, everything will become clear. But there is an agenda which is at play here.
The proceedings were sped along so quickly that they were tried and they were sentenced within the space of exactly 1 month. Highly, highly unusual.
जो अब जज थे तो ये जब पढ़ा करते थे, मेरी जो दुकान पर तो नज़र इनकी कमज़ोर थी तो इनके बनवाने आते थे, तो उस कभी कभी मैं चाय भी पिला देता था। उस वक्त ये स्टूडेंट थे, पढ़ रहे थे, फिर मुझे तो नहीं पता पढ़ लिख कर तो फिर ये मतलब इतने उहदे पर पहुंच गए। तो अब जब मैं पेश हुआ जब पहली दफ़ा इनकी अदालत में, तो फिर मुझे देखते कहते हैं वो शरीफ आदमी तुम कहाँ। ये पहला है, वो उनके भी मौलवी भी खड़े में, हमारी जमात के भी लोग खड़े में हैं, महतकड़ियाँ मैं भी और वो भी, तो कहते हैं वो शरीफ आदमी तुम कहाँ, बैठ जाओ।
All expectation was that he would be released in a week, and they said the lawyer was advising as well, there's nothing in the case.
And he was charged with blasphemy and terrorism charges, which you can see are quite laughable of a man of that generation.
His court case was so unfair. The only people that testified against him were the police that arrested him.
The people who were conducting the sting operation were also the witnesses. They were not subject to any significant cross-examination, and it was a done deal, a slam dunk, as you might say.
And this perfectly innocent man was, I suppose, in our language in the UK, was fitted up.
That legislation, which is designed to deal with criminals and terrorists of the highest order, of the highest level, was used in order to convict a 78-year-old optician for the possession of peaceful religious books.
There is probably no person on the earth that would look at him or talk to him and perceive that he was a terrorist. So it made their case all the more astounding and ridiculous.
जज साहब बैठे थे, रीडर था, जब जाकर खड़े हो गए, बस 2 मिनट खड़े हुए। आपको 5 साल कैद बमुशक्कत और 6 लाख रुपए जुर्माने की सज़ा दी जाती है।
Was politically motivated, it was ideologically motivated, and there was never a chance. They were given very significant sentences. I mean, it's 5 years plus 3 years plus non-payment of the fine, an additional 3 months and then 6 months. So I mean, they could have been spending potentially 9 years in prison.
With this mob violence and this mentality and everyone afraid of the mobs, it was impossible for him to get justice.
You know, being over 80 years of age and being a prisoner of conscience when his only crime is to possess literature of his own community is utterly absurd. How can you try and convict with the hardest criminal sentence an 80-year-old quote-unquote terrorist? I mean, it made no sense. It became a symbol of injustice within Pakistan.
This is unbelievable, to be honest. To understand that a person like him can be accused, that just tells the state of mind of the society, basically.
मौलवियों का रोप, मौलवी से डर गए। मेरा अपना जो है, मौलवी से अगर खुदा से डरते तो इंसाफ करते। ये इंसाफ नहीं है। मैंने क्या किया? कोई जुर्म तो नहीं किया। अपनी जमात की किताबें बेच रहा हूँ, 100 साल से बिक रही हैं। कोई आज नहीं बिक रही हैं, 100 साल हो गया किताबें बिकते हुए। कुरान शरीफ बेच रहा हूँ, सारी दूसरी किताबें भी मेरे पास होती थी, बड़े बड़े शायर हैं जो इतने उनकी भी मेरे पास होती थी, सब बेचता था। तो अपनी जमात की भी बेचता था, उसमें इस पर मुझे उन्होंने सजा दी। तो सिर्फ मौलवियों से डर कर, खुदा से नहीं डरे।
2 घड़ी सब्र से।
My wife rang me and she was quite distressed that that he has been arrested.
पहले यकीन नहीं आ रहा था कि ये सब कुछ हो गया, शौक में तो थे हम सारे.
Growing up, we knew kind of from stories what Baba had gone through. He'd been arrested before, but this time it was like surreal. It was kind of a shock to the system, I guess.
Initially, it was a shock and worrying thing, but then the trust in Allah kicks in, and then the resilience comes in.
काफी मुश्किल था वो, हम भी रो रहे थे, अब्बू भी रो रहे थे, लेकिन फिर भी हमें तसल्ली दे रहे थे कि आप लोग ठीक रहें, ये सब कुछ होता रहता. हमने अहमदियत के लिए ये, अगर हमने उसको माना है तो हमने उसके लिए कुर्बानी भी देनी है. और बहुत वो डाउन लग रहे थे क्योंकि उससे पहले उनको गालिबन उन्होंने मारा भी था 1 या 2 दफ़ा.
एक दफ़ा जब ये CTD वाले पकड़ कर ले गए ना मक्कू आना एक जगह है, वहाँ एक जेल बनाई भी उन्होंने, वहाँ रखा, वहाँ मुझे मारा था. कुर्सी पर बिठा दिया, पीछे एक सिपाही खड़ा कर दिया, कंधे हाथ थल्ले रखी, तो हज़रत मसीह मौद का कोई पम्फलेट था, उसको पलट करना, और मुझे किताब का नाम नहीं याद रहा क्योंकि उसने अंदर से कोई सफ़े थे, तो पंजाबी में कहता है देख मिर्जे ने की लिखा है, बता. तो मैंने उसको कहा अल्लाह और उसके रसूल का नाम ही लिखा हुआ और क्या लिखा हुआ. बस उसने फिर मारना शुरू किया, फिर 15-20 थप्पड़ मारे. अभी भी कभी कभी मेरे यहाँ दांत में दर्द होता है, फिर 2 दांत भी मेरे टूट गए.
जो पाकिस्तान जेल में सलूक होता है वो खुद नहीं वो कहते कि मुझसे क्या हुआ, बस कहते हैं मैं बिल्कुल ठीक रहा, मेरा ख्याल रखा, हालांकि सबको पता है जो जेल में बदसलूकी होती है.
He's always seemed so cheerful, so happy, and such a nice person, even just from, you know, looking at a picture of him. So it's a bit shocking, I think, when we found out, okay, actually he's in the terrorist cell.
और अब्बू नहीं पसंद करा उन्होंने कि वो उन्होंने कहा कि अब आप लोग यहाँ पे नहीं आना दोबारा, कि कहीं मेरे बच्चों को भी किसी को या बीवी को नुकसान ना पहुँचाए.
He was kept in prison, and in spite of all his petitions to the High Court, they never got heard, they were never reached.
And the people who, young children who have grown up here, they don't appreciate that how Pakistani Ahmadis are actually suffering.
सिसकते हुए हरफों में ढला है, जो दर्द सिसकते हुए हरफों में ढला है.
So we had a first meeting, both cried. So I said, just recite La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minas zalimin. So I said, just recite that and it would be all right.
गम दे के किसे फिक्रे.
I went to see Hazur Anwar. His prayers and his personal interest actually brought the fruit.
हुजूर को भी ख़त लिख दिया, हुजूर बच्चे भी बताते थे, जमात वाले भी बताते थे, हुजूर आपके लिए दुआ कर रहे हैं. मैंने कहा बस ठीक है. तो बस एक यकीन होता है ना इंसान को, अपने कश्ती खुदा पे छोड़ दूँ, लंगर को तोड़ दूँ, अल्लाह जाने उसका काम है, कभी दिल में ख्याल ही नहीं आया.
ये कौन है जो दर्द में रस घोल रहा है.
The Pakistani government unjustly has imprisoned him for propagating the Ahmadiyya faith. The Pakistani government should not only drop all charges and set Abdul Shakur free, but also respect and protect the basic rights of all members of Pakistan's Ahmadiyya community.
There were people all over the world, including many United Nations officials, who took up the cause of Abdul Shakur Sahib. It so happened that there were officials in the United States who were very passionate about this particular case?
There was huge international pressure. The United States Commission on International Religious Freedom and others had made many statements condemning this act of the Pakistani authorities, perpetrated through the anti-terrorism courts.
If anybody on the planet ought to be free, it ought to be someone like Abdul Shakur. What harm could a man like this do, to the world that could justify this treatment? And so when I saw his picture and I heard his story, I felt like I had a personal responsibility to fight for him as if he was my own family member.
With global outrage at the injustice, the movement to get Shakur Pai released gains momentum.
Abdul Shakur is not a terrorist. He was arrested, charged, and imprisoned because he is an Ahmadi. I call on the Pakistani government to immediately release Abdul Shakur and ensure his safety.
In time, they finally had to let him out because it was an embarrassing situation for the country.
An appeal was filed, and whilst the appeal was dismissed, they commuted the sentence to time served. And on the 18th of March, they were released after 3 years and 3 months.
कुछ ऐसा फज़ल हज़रतें रब वरा हुआ सब दुश्मनों के देख के औसा हुए खता सब दुश्मनों के देख के औसा हुए खता एक कतरा उसके फज़ल ने दरिया बना दिया
ईमान के अहमदियत के लिए तो वो बहुत ज़्यादा बहादुर है ज़हनी तौर पे.
He always said that हमेशा फतह सच की होगी.
To go through that multiple times, especially the last time was the longest, the level of patience that's needed is something that, one aspires to have.
ये मुश्किलें तो आनी ही आनी है. ये कोई वो नई चीज़ नहीं है. जब भी अल्लाह ताला के अंबिया आते हैं, ये चीज़ उनके साथ लिखी हुई है. बस तो इसमें कोई नई चीज़ नहीं. यही मैं कहता हूँ, इसमें तो कोई नई चीज़ नहीं ना भी मुझे जेल में डाल दिया तो डाला. रसूल करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम के वक्त देखो सारे सहाबा का क्या हाल होता था. तो रोटी भी नहीं बैठ कर खा सकते थे आराम से.
अहमदियत पे उनका हमेशा से यकीन बहुत मजबूत रहा है. जो खुदा ताला आइंदा भी रखे और हमारी जो आने वाली नस्लें उनमें भी वही मजबूती दे खुदा ताला.
Always those sacrifices bring fruit and bring victorious. If you look at the pain of, migrating as Khalifa's Rabi, that was painful at that time. But look at the Jamaat's prosperity and the things that Jamaat have achieved, which might not have been possible being in Rabwa.
मैं तो अब भी तैयार हूँ 10 दफ़ा जान देने के लिए भी तैयार हैं. हमने तो जो बेहद ऐसी कि हर चीज़ हमारी बस खुदा के लिए वैसे भी तो मर रहे हैं. तो अगर ऐसे अल्लाह की राह में मरे तो फिर और इससे ज़्यादा बेहतर कौन सी चीज़ है.
Upon his release, Shakur Pai is flown to Washington, invited on behalf of the United States government.
Mr. Abdul Shakur was imprisoned for 3 years and 3 months as a terrorist for selling books.
वहाँ जाना है आपने तकरीर करनी है. मुझे ट्रम्प शर्म का क्या मैंने कहा पता नहीं क्या चीज़ है. ट्रम्प टैक्सी लिया 2 सूट रख लिए और मैं चढ़ गया.
We were so excited to find out he was coming and in such good health and so robust. It was amazing that a gentleman who had been in prison at his age could not have bitterness, could have forgiveness.
There was a dignity and yet a humility to Abdul Shakur when I met him.
He was so forgiving and kind, and I remember being so struck by his remarks and his appreciation for everyone who stood for him, but also for the others who've been unjustly imprisoned.
एक छोटे से कमरे में बंद रखा गया. खाना पीना, क़ज़ाए हाजत, बर्तन धोना सब एक ही जगह था.
जो बहुत तकलीफ दे था। दूसरे कैदियों को सबके सामने तशद्दुद का निशाना बनाया जाता था, जिससे जेल में बहुत ज़्यादा खौफ की फिज़ा थी और हर वक्त जहनी अज़ियत का सामना था। मैं तो दुआ ही कर सकता हूँ कि मेरे वतन पाकिस्तान में ऐसा माहौल हो जिसमें तमाम पाकिस्तानियों को बराबरी के हकूक़ हों, सबको अपने अक़ीदे के मुताबिक ज़िंदगी गुजारने का हक़ हो, सबको अपने मज़हब पर अमल करने की आज़ादी हो।
I was unbelievably moved by the experience of speaking just to the right of Abdul Shakur, someone who I hadn't met, but I felt like I knew because of the advocacy that so many of us have embarked upon on his behalf. And the fact that he was here and that he is no longer in prison demonstrates the power of our voice when our voice comes together.
Hearing the stories of Mr. Shakur was poignant and painful because he has suffered so much with simply selling books about the Ahmadiyya Muslim community. And it just once again shows us that we must put down efforts by people to divide us.
At the time, no one, including Shakur Pai, knew that the then President of the United States, Donald Trump, would have the honor of meeting Nasir Rahimullah, an Ahmadi Muslim prisoner, in the path of God.
I didn't know he had gone to America, and so I was working in Oxford, and I met one of my MD friends in Oxford, and he was like, "Oh, I can't believe your grandfather met Trump." And I was like, "When did he meet Trump?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, look at this video." And then I was shocked myself because I didn't know. It was kind of crazy that a few months ago Baba was being released from prison in Pakistan, and now he's in the White House.
They invited all the 27 individuals, which included Abdul Shakur Saab, and interpreters to go and visit the White House and be guests of the White House. But they did not expect, nor did any of us expect, that the President of the United States would actually meet them.
President going to meet with us? Is he not? We're being told looks good, but everything's always subject to the president's schedule being changed out of events.
And I think that happened very spontaneously. I think President Trump decided he would take time from his schedule to meet these 27 individuals. And what makes it so special was none of it was scripted. None of it was planned. None of it we even knew about.
The President of the United States himself felt moved to meet this man.
तो वो वैसे देखता था, ऐसे देखता था, ऐसे देखता। जब मेरी आई तो मैं कि ये ट्रम्प है। वहीं पता लगा ना कि ये सदर है अमेरिका का। मैं मुस्लिम जमात से ताल्लुक़ रखता हूँ, कम्युनिटी से।
I am from the Ahmadiyya Muslim community of Pakistan.
74 में हमको गैर मुस्लिम अक़लियत करार दिए गए।
In 1974 we were declared non-Muslims.
हमारे घर भी लूट लिए, हमारी दुकानें भी लूट ली।
Our houses and shops were looted.
कई घरों को आग लगा दी। मैं आ गया, रब्बा आ गया, फिर बच्चों को लेकर सरगोदा में दुकान थी।
I relocated.
तो फिर यहाँ पर भी अभी मुझे किताबें काम करता था तो किताबों पर उन्होंने सजा दी।
I was a salesman and then I was imprisoned for 5 years for selling books.
और 5 साल कैद व मुशक्कत और 6 लाख रुपए जुर्माना। अभी 3 साल, 3.25 साल के बाद अब मैं रिहाई होकर आया हूँ।
I've been released after 3 years.
हम किसी को बड़े पुरअमन तरीके से रहते हैं।
We are peaceful.
मैं आपको यहाँ मुसलमान कह सकता हूँ, लेकिन पाकिस्तान में अपने आप को मुसलमान नहीं कह सकता।
I can call myself a Muslim in the United States of America, but not in Pakistan.
वरना हमें सजा देते हैं।
Otherwise I'll be punished.
इस वजह से और हमारी जमात तो बड़ी पुरअमन जमात है। किसी को लोग गालियाँ देते हैं, घर जलाते हैं, हम किसी को कुछ नहीं कहते, अल्लाह पर छोड़ते हैं।
We have never retaliated and left everything to God.
बस ये तो आपसे दरख्वास्त है, अल्लाह ताला आपको जज़ा दे, अल्लाह ताला आपका हाफ़िज़ नासिर हो।
God bless you and give you a long life.
Thank you.
We love you, Mr. President.
Wow. Gentleman's gone on longer than most of the other presenters had gone on, and so at one point in time I say, it's time to move this on. The president says, no, I want to hear it on out. I think it was a great education for the president. I think it was an amazing statement to the world.
अमरीकी सदर ट्रंप से उसकी मुलाकात भी हुई। दोनों मकामात पर उसने पाकिस्तान के खिलाफ खूब जहर उगला और आलमी मीडिया के सामने पाकिस्तानी रियासत की खूब तौहीन की।
Now there were consequences that happened to several people out of it. Several people were not able to go home to their country afterwards. None of that was planned. The whole thing wasn't planned.
So the types of allegations that were rising against Shakur Bhai as an individual and against the community is that they were working or conspiring with America to defame Pakistan, to work against the interests of Pakistan, to undermine the country.
और उससे एक हफ्ता पहले ये वहाँ पर साजिश की जा रही है कि वो जाके डोनाल्ड ट्रंप को कहता है कि पाकिस्तान में मैं मुसलमान नहीं कहला सकता, अमेरिका में मैं मुसलमान कहला सकता हूँ, और उस अपने वालिद को वो जाके शिकायत लगा रहा है, तू मुसलमान किस चीज का है?
Shakur Bhai was one of the guests there, and there were many other participants, including family members of victims of the Christchurch attack in New Zealand, including Rohingya Muslims, including members of various other communities who'd faced some sort of religious persecution or issues. And he served as a prisoner of conscience. I mean, and he was like there in that capacity, like all the other guests. He did not go to remonstrate with the government, to put any sanctions on Pakistan or to take any action against Pakistan or any of those things. He was just there to tell his own story. He simply told his own story.
Nothing that he said is false. What he said was true.
मैंने पाकिस्तान ही जाना था, मैंने कहा वो तो एक कुछ दिन का था, तो फिर मैं यहाँ आ गया, फिर मैंने जाना था, फिर हुजूर से मुलाकात हुई, तो हुजूर ने मुझे मना कर दिया। जब पहले आया ना, जुमा था, तो मैं यहीं खड़ा किया, पहले बाहर मिले हुजूर से खूब, तो फिर डालकर फिर ऊपर गए, फिर मैं भी हुजूर के साथ ही, पीछे जुमा था उस दिन, फिर बड़ी दुनिया ने सलाम वगैरह और ये जिस तरह करते हैं, तो फिर हुजूर ने, फिर मुलाकात हुई, तो हुजूर ने कहा फिर आपने पाकिस्तान नहीं जाना। मैंने कहा ठीक है। फिर हुजूर ने यहाँ तक कहा आप कहाँ मतलब, तो मैंने कहा सब बेटियाँ यहाँ हैं। मैं उनके पास, ठीक है अगर तुम्हारी बेटियाँ नहीं रखेंगी तो हम रखेंगे। मैंने कहा ठीक है। मैंने कहा बेटियाँ हैं हुजूर, सब कुछ अल्लाह ताला का फजल है।
He has been visiting Cambridge many times since 1988. Every time he came, Hazur asked him, do you want to stay here? He said, no, I don't want to stay here. I want to go back. And the reason being, he said, no, I'm not scared.
क्योंकि लंदन तो मैं आ रहा आता 3-4 साल आता था, बस फिर हुजूर ने कहा दिया अब नहीं जाना।
चंद महीनों के बाद ही कोविड आ गया, मेरे ख्याल से गालिबन 6 महीने के बाद। तो वो कहते पहले फिर कहीं बाहर नहीं आ जा सकते थे, तो कहते मजाक करते थे कि पहले मैं वहाँ जेल में था, अब घर की जेल में हूँ, पहले उनके पास उनकी जेल में था।
ये भी मेरा दिल करता है कि मैं पाकिस्तान जाऊँ, लेकिन मुझे अब हुक्म नहीं है पाकिस्तान जाने का।
सितमगरों ने कहा मिलके ये अदालत में कि हम हैं कादिर मुतलक, जजा सजा हम हैं, हमारे हाथ में किस्मत है।
A traumatic ordeal comes to an end. Shakur Bhai went through years of trials, humiliation and separation from his family for a crime manufactured by the Pakistani authorities. A crime all Ahmadi Muslims in Pakistan are constantly at risk of being convicted of. The crime of being a Muslim. The crime of accepting the promised Messiah. The crime of believing. It's been 5 years since he was released, yet Shakur Bhai is ever ready to return to prison for his faith.
मैं तो बेशक अब भी भेज दूँ, मैं तो सारी उम्र मेरी गुजर जाए मुझे तब भी कोई फिक्र नहीं। यहाँ कर रह कर वो रोटी खानी है ना 2 वक्त और अल्लाह को याद करना है, और तो दुनिया में कोई काम नहीं ना, दुनिया के क्या करना है दुनिया में। अहमदियत ही होगी, अहमदियत की फतह होगी, अहमदियत का गलबा होगा।
अहमदियत जिंदाबाद, अहमदियत जिंदाबाद, अहमदियत जिंदाबाद।
कुछ भी हो जाए हमें नहीं परवाह, अंदर करो बाहर करो, हाँ खुदा हमारे साथ है।
जिंदाबाद, अहमदियत जिंदाबाद।
ये बड़ा एजाज़ है जो लोग जेलों में जाते हैं, ये बड़ा एजाज़ है उनके लिए।
अहमदियत जिंदाबाद, आज चिरागा हर घर में है।
हमेशा अल्लाह और उसके रसूल ही गालिब रहते हैं, लिख छोड़ा है खुदा ताला, और गालिब भी रहे हैं। सारी स्टोरी उठाकर देख लें, सबसे बड़ा हमारा निशान सच्चाई का ये है।
हर दिल में है अहमदियत जिंदाबाद, अहमदियत जिंदाबाद।